Parvati Bhagini, Hari Om, you can start chanting the Dhyana Shloka.
Hari Om. Okay. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayiniim Amba Swamanusandathami Bhagavad-gite Bhavadveshiniim Namostute Vyasavishala-buddhe Pullarvindayatapatra-netra Yena tvaya bharatatailapurnaha Prajvalito jnanamaya pradipaha Prapanna parijataya Stotra vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrutaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Geetamrutam Mahat Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadronatata Jayadratha Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahawati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavairana Nadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parashariyavachah sarojamamalam Geetarthagandhotkatam Nanakyanaka kesaram harikatha Sambodhana bodhitam Loke sajjana षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम भगिनी।
Hari Om, Dhanyavada. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So in the first 2.5 verses of the 15th chapter, Lord Krishna presented a Prapancha Varnanam, the description of the universe, by comparing the universe to a huge Ashwatha tree, right? A fig tree or a peepal tree. And with regard to the universe, Lord Krishna gave us some very important information. The first thing is that the universe has got two causes. The first cause is Ishvara himself, who is the Samanya Karanam, like a contractor or a builder. And there is a second cause also, which is in the form of Jiva himself, who alone gives the blueprint to the Bhagavan through his Punya Papa Karma. Jiva as an individual becomes responsible for his own body and his own private environment, and all the Jivas collectively become responsible for deciding the type of the universe itself. Therefore, the design of the universe is determined by the Punya Papa Karma and Bhagavan, right, put together, and according to that, Bhagavan actually creates the universe according to the Punya Papa Karma. So, Bhagavan is the Samanya Karanam and Jiva is the Vishesha Karanam. Very, very important message. Okay. So, in whatever world we are and whatever we face, the responsibility in a way for that kind of world manifesting is our own Punya Papa Karma. Right? So, therefore, whenever the question comes, why did Bhagavan create the universe? The answer is we have contributed by our karma. Right? So, the second important message that Lord Krishna gave was the universe as an individual current universe has got a beginning and an end. The Srishti being the beginning and Pralayam being the end. The individual universe has a beginning, but this universe has a series which does not have a beginning or an end, because the current universe, when it ends, it produces enough punya papa karma, right, for sufficient for production of another universe, right? So the living beings of the universe produce enough punya papa karma which serves as the seed for the next Srishti, and when the next Srishti ends, there is sufficient punya papa karma for the next Srishti, and it continues. Like tree producing the seed producing the tree, and then it will continue, the seed tree series, which is eternal, and we cannot trace the beginning also. We cannot trace the end, we cannot trace the middle also, right? We must note this important point here. So this is the second aspect. So this was the verse that we were seeing. Na rupam asyeha tatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na sampratishta. Right? Therefore, we should never ask the question, when did the first creation come to existence? Right? That question is non-relevant because there is no such thing called first creation. Every creation is preceded by a bunch of karmas, and every creation is every creation is followed by a bunch of karma, preceded and followed. Okay, therefore it is anadi and ananta. So the first message is it is a joint venture between Bhagavan and the karma, and the second message is it is anadi and ananta. And the third important and technical message is, even though we are solidly experiencing the universe, if we probe into the nature of the universe, we will not be able to arrive at what is behind it, because on inquiry, everything will get reduced to something else and it will just keep on continuing. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Asyeha in the first line, Asya, meaning this universe, Adihi Nasti, right? It doesn't have a beginning. And basically what we speak about in the Avanyavata Sankalpa, Avidya Vasanaya, Anadi Avidya Vasanaya, right? And Avidya is another name for Karana Shariram. That's why in introduction to Vedanta also we saw, in Tattva Bodha also the definition comes there, right? Karana Shariram Kim, and it goes Anirvachya Nadya Avidya Rupa. So Anadi Avidya Rupa, that is Karana Shariram, right? So therefore Adihi, you cannot talk about the beginning, right? And this is actually confirmed by modern science also, where we learn of the law of conservation of matter and energy. Very, very important scientific law which says matter is never created and it is never destroyed. It is ever conserved. It will be either in matter form or it will be in energy form. Right? So before Big Bang, the energy was there, and that is what they refer to as singularity. Right? Therefore, there is no beginning according to science, and there is no beginning according to Vedanta also, right? So if there is no beginning, where is the question of ending, right? So end is nothing but transformation from visible to invisible form. So there is no real end at all. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, na adihi, na antaha, right? So what is in the middle, right? So in the middle also there is nothing, right? So here nacha sampratishta, right? So he gives a very, very important description of the universe, right? Basically Vidyaranya in Panchadashi analyzes Maya, the quality, the nature of Maya, right? So he says, why does he say even in the middle it is not there, sampratishta? We are seeing this world, right? So you might have this question in your mind. So we must understand Maya Tattvam here, right? So that is the important topic on Maya. Maya means inexplicable, mysterious and magical. So magic is that which we experience but we cannot explain, right? So to understand what is Maya, you must actually go to a magic show. Especially if you go to this PC Sarkar show, right? At least as Swamiji says, for the sake of Vedanta, you go, right? So you experience extraordinary things, but you will not be able to explain. For instance, the magician, he calls his wife, right? And he asks her to lie down. And then what does he do? He chops, right, the body into two. And then you will also see blood coming out, and then you will see that one part of the body is kept in one side of the audit on the stage and the one on the other side, right? Then after some time he will do something and then he'll say, okay, I'm going to bring her back to life. So he will just put the two parts together and she'll spring alive, right? Now, how do you explain this? This is magic, right? So this is inexplicable. So the Maya Tattvam is compared to magic actually by Vidyaranya, and several of our Shastras, the texts use this as an example, right? So only thing is to create the impact, the magician will go up and down, he'll make some sound, there'll be some music, all of that, right? Which are all the side things that happen, right? So very important point that is being brought out by the Shastras is it is exactly like magic, right? And in Panchadashi, in the 7th chapter, he says, and then also in Gita, right? The entire universe is a wonderful experience, and you try to probe and analyze, you will find that it will disappear. Interestingly, even in quantum physics, if you start reading, right, they say the smaller and smaller it gets atom, subatomic, particle, etc. And you try to measure anything, right, it becomes so very erroneous, right? Because it is so difficult to do this. So exactly that is what is mentioned in Vedanta also. So you experience the world, but if you analyze, right, beyond a certain limit, you will not be able to do it, right? So Swamiji often gives this example of the auditorium, right? It's a big hall, right? But ultimately, when you analyze what is that hall which is accommodating so many people, it is nothing but walls, right? Then you say, what is the wall? Then it is bricks. Then what is the brick? It is just mud. And then what is the mud? It is just atoms and whatever molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, etc. Then ultimately it becomes energy in motion, right? So everything is formless energy in motion. So it becomes inexplicable, right? So basically, the observer is influencing whatever is observed, right? What does that mean? Right? So it means that there is no such thing called objective reality at all. This is where Vedanta and quantum physics seem to converge, right? So quantum physics also questions objective reality. It says there is no universe if not for the observer, right? And you can see Schrodinger's equation and all of those derived along these lines, right? So Vedanta also questions the objective existence of the world. It says it is a mystery. You will never be able to clearly define what this universe is. We can have a working understanding, right? We understand there is a hall, there is a fan, there is a computer, there is a body, right? They're all working understanding, right? So basically, classical physics operates there, and quantum physics is the negation of all of that, right? So therefore, Krishna says world is a mystery, and the Vedantic word for the magical universe is Maya. Therefore, he says, Asya rupam tata na upalabhyate. On inquiry, the world is not available as it appears. It gets reduced to what? Right? Something else. Our physical body is made up of panchabhutas. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, etc. Right? So, and then it is joined together in a particular proportion. Same way plant body, animal body, etc. When you inquire, it becomes something else, right? So that is Maya, right? So why is this important here? Up to this, the description of the universe happens, right? So from here onwards, the spiritual sadhana is going to start. Now the question is, why the spiritual sadhana? What is the purpose of spirituality at all? What is the connection between description of the universe and spirituality? For that, we have to remember the following important corollaries. The world has got beauty, right? That you see superficially, Miss Universe, the wonders of the world, etc., the beautiful music, the ragas, etc. So it has beauty. The world has got variety, right? It has got variety, and the world has also got novelty, newer and newer designs, fashion, right? Everything happens, beautiful places. But Lord Krishna gives a statutory warning, right? He says, Maya is, yes, definitely having a lot of variety, beauty, novelty, right? But it does not have stability, right? So in 1 hour's time that we start the Gita class and in the Gita class, our body is older by 1 hour. There are a lot of cell divisions that are taking place, right? So, and since it does not have stability, it does not have reliability for our security, right? It can never be relied upon for our security. Therefore, never be emotionally dependent on the world or people, right? Or their relationships for the sake of security. Therefore, detachment from the world is the first lesson in spirituality. And what do we mean by detachment? You continue to serve the world, continue to enjoy the family, give your time, give your love, give your care, use the family for service, but never use the family or your possessions or anything, right? Your profession for emotional security. So Swamiji always gives this example of, in this Golu, the Navaratri Golu, which we have here in South, right? We make these beautiful, cardboard models. So imagine there is a lovely cardboard chair that is made almost, resembling a real one, right? With beautiful decorations, etc. So realistic and beautiful, right? So you can paint it, you can do all that, right? And you can even keep it in a place, make a doll set, all of that. But although the cardboard chair appears as a real chair, you can keep it in the showcase, you can keep it in the golu, but never sit on the chair. You can do everything except sitting. Before sitting, you must remember what? That wait, this is not real, this is mithya. So similarly, Vedanta says the whole blessed universe is a cardboard chair. Use it for serving, getting the qualifications for spiritual knowledge. World is useful only for gaining the qualification for spiritual knowledge by doing Pancha Mahayajna. And when the question of security comes, don't depend upon the perishable part of the universe. Go to the root of the universe. We saw Urdhva Moolam, Ishvaraha or Brahman. God alone can give you security. World can never give security. So switch over from world dependence to God dependence. That is the beginning of spirituality, called asangatvam or vairagyam, right? Vairagyam doesn't mean being adamant, right? Sometimes in Tamil we mistake this meaning this way. In Sanskritam, it doesn't mean being adamant, right? So vairagyam means detachment. So Lord Krishna says, turn away from the world and turn towards God, right? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, right? So use the world to gain the qualification and to serve, but never lean on them. Therefore, Lord Krishna is going to give us a series of disciplines, spiritual disciplines. The first one is asangatvam or vairagyam. He's going to talk of 4, right? The first discipline is detachment, not hatred. Transcending attachment and hatred is detachment, right? Transcending attachment as well as hatred is asangatvam, and it is nothing but getting out of emotional leaning on people, right? Possessions, your profession, etc., right? So what is my emotional support? I must learn to say Bhagavan or God, right? Instead of naming our possession or our relatives or whatever, right? The maids or the caretakers, right? So ananya shintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam pahamyaham. In chapter 9, we saw in the 22nd verse, yogakshemam vahamyaham is Bhagavan. Therefore, turn towards Bhagavan for security. That's the first step in spirituality. And here it is said, enam suviruda moolam ashwattam. So this universe, which is similar to the ashwatta vriksha, right? Ashwatta sadrisham, which is suviruda moolam, whose secondary roots are spread all over, and it is well entrenched, right? Deep rooted moolam, the universe with deep roots. May you cut chitva, means develop detachment, right? May you cut the attachment. Here Ashwattam means Ashwatta Sangam Chitva. The word Sangam means we have to cut, we have to supply here and say we have to detach ourselves, right? Or give up on attachment or raga. May you cut with what? Asanga Shastrena, with a weapon called detachment or vairagyam, right? And it is not going away from the world. You support others, but don't seek support from others. Take support from Bhagavan and you can support your family members, right? Detachment doesn't mean you don't provide that love for the family members, right? Do that, right? But let it be unconditional, right? That's the important message. Therefore, asanga shastrena, with a strong weapon of detachment, dridena, which has been, right? Which weapon of detachment has been sharpened by discrimination. The detachment will become strong only by what? Discrimination or discernment, right? What is the discrimination? The world has beauty, variety and novelty, but it cannot give security. Bhagavan alone can give security. This knowledge, world cannot give security. Bhagavan can give security, and Bhagavan alone can give security. That knowledge, right? Therefore, this viveka sharpens the vairagyam. Therefore, with viveka, sharpened vairagyam, may you cut your attachment, right? Or may you cut your bondages, right? So that's what is said here. So this detachment is compulsory for spiritual progress, and this detachment is giving up of attachment, right? So the first chapter of the Gita itself, we saw the difference between attachment and love. In love, I allow others to depend on me by giving whatever help I can give. Love is making myself available for others' help. Therefore, I continue to give my time or energy or whatever it is I give, right? That is love, but without expecting anything in return, right? So once God's grace is there, support will come from one direction or another direction automatically. Therefore, giving up of attachment is not giving up of love. We can allow others to lean on me, but I don't want to lean on others. That is called vairagyam. This is discipline number 1. Now some more we are going to talk about. Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam. Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam. Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah. Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah. Tameva chadyam purusham prabhadye. Tameva chadyam purusham prabhadye. Yata pravritti prasrita purani. Yata pravritti prasrita purani. So in this, the second and third disciplines are presented. Tataha means after giving up emotional dependence on the world, which itself will make the mind preoccupied, right? So after I do that, when I reduce that, the mind will become quieter and quieter, and with that quiet mind, may you enter into jnana yoga. And Lord Krishna defines jnana yoga as parimarganam, right? Parimarganam means inquiry, vicharaha, into what? Padam. Padam here means goal, right? That unfailing, infallible support, right? Which is God or Ishvara. Therefore, Padam refers to Ishvara Swarupam. Parimargitavyam, may you inquire into, right? Because the forms that we worship are only provisional forms. They are not the real nature of God. Krishna himself said that in 4th chapter, Arjuna, right? Krishna said, my Krishna Shariram is not my real nature, but it is a temporary form I have assumed with the help of Maya, right? So he says that in the 4th chapter, Ajopi sanna vyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san. It is only Maya Manusha Vesham. It is not the ultimate real God. Therefore, the forms we worship, all of them are provisional, keeping this provisional God for our puja, meditation, etc. We have to inquire into the nature of the real God behind the superficial body. This inquiry has to be done with the help of the Shastra Pramanam, the Shastra, and with the help of Guru, right? Remembering the 4th chapter, Tatviddi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya. May you go to the Guru for gaining the knowledge of the real nature of Ishvara, right? Which is the consistent and systematic study of the spiritual scriptures like the Gita. So, therefore, may you enter into Jnana Yoga. This is the second discipline. Right? And in the second line, you get the third discipline, right? For the success of Jnana Yoga, not only we require our own committed effort, we require the grace of the Lord also, right? Every success requires 2 components. One is our own perseverance, commitment, etc. And the second is Ishvara Anugraha, or the grace of the Lord. Therefore, may you surrender to Ishvara and ask for success in the spiritual pursuit. Therefore, the second line, right, is basically within inverted commas, aham tam adyam purusham prapadye, right? So, how we should surrender? I surrender to that Ishvara, the original cause behind the universe, which existed even before the universe came. Adya Purushaha means Karana Purushaha. And here the word Purushaha does not mean a male. Okay, it means Paramatma. So I surrender to the Paramatma, the Mula Karanam, which was compared to the root of the Ashwatha tree. And what type of Ishvara he is? Yataha Purani Pravritti Prasrita. From that Ishvara alone, everything has originated, meaning the beginningless creation, the ancient creation. Pravrittihi means Utpattihi. It has come out. Prasrita has come, and not only all the universe comes from Bhagavan, right? But whatever you experience also, right, from any of the local people, that is also coming from the Bhagavan, because he is basically establishing the laws of karma, right? So according to the law of karma, we are going through this, right? If someone is creating a trouble, that means some karma is getting manifested through that person, right? So according to Shastra, that person is only a pipeline, right? My own Purva karma comes through that person, right? So that is why sometimes, in the family, you don't get all relatives the same way, whether it is spouse, whether it is mother-in-law, father-in-law, children, or daughter-in-law, son-in-law. Not everybody is of the same kind. Depending on your prarabdha, sometimes everything may be fine, sometimes one of them may be a big challenge also, right? It could be anybody, right? So Bhagavan sends karma through one or more of the relatives, events, etc., right? So once we remember this fact, we have got the capacity to accept every experience as Ishvara Prasadaha. And therefore, this attitude of Ishvara Prasada is very important, because everything comes from Bhagavan only. Therefore, I surrender to the Lord. Śaranagati is the third discipline, right? So the first discipline was vairagyam, second is jnana yoga, and third is śaranagati, right? So number 3 is learning to accept everything as Ishvara Prasada, right? We can try to improve the situation. We have to put in our effort. But still, in spite of our best effort, whatever we go through, that we take it as Ishvara Prasada, right? So, and if a person follows, right, all these disciplines, then one can attain the goal of Bhagavan. That is said in the second line. The fourth discipline also, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So, Asmin Gata, by reaching the goal of Bhagavan, here Yasmin refers to the goal of Bhagavan. Gataha means reaching. Bhuyahana nivartanti, that seeker will not have the cycle of Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. From mortality, he has reached immortality. So, the cycle of birth and death falls basically within the realm of, right, mortality. So the person has become one with Ishvara, who is immortal. So that's what is said in the famous Brihadaranyaka mantra, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. He will attain Ishvara, free from this Janana Marana cycle, right, which is otherwise called moksha. Now one more discipline is left out, which we will see in the next shloka. निर्मानमोहाजितसङ्गदोषाः निर्मानमोहाजितसङ्गदोषाः अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसङ्गैः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसङ्गैः गच्छन्त्यमूढाः पदमव्ययं तत् गच्छन्त्यमूढाः पदमव्ययं तत्. So here Krishna is actually giving a set of values to be observed, which we have already seen in the 13th chapter. 20 values were enumerated from the 8th verse up to the 12th verse, right? It started with amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shantirarjavam. Those set of values which are conducive for spiritual growth. It is like the lubrication of the instrument. All those values which are conducive for our spiritual growth, right? May you try to develop them consciously, right? The degree of success we need not bother, but a sincere attempt is required. So we should not be negligent saying it's okay, in Kali Yuga it will always be like this, right? That pragmatism doesn't help, right? Because we cannot just give excuses, lame excuses. We must make a sincere attempt with regard to every value which is positive, and sincere attempt to drop every habit which is not healthy. That is why in the Karma Yoga definition, we saw ride, right? Worth remembering after so many months, right? R is reduce adharmic activities. I is increase dharmic activities. D is dedicate all your actions to the Lord. And E is experience the results in the form of Ishvara Prasada. So ride, R-I-D-E, right? So therefore, basically we start at least sincerely noting down where we are indulging in adharmic activities, even something like saying, telling lies, etc. And then slowly try and reduce that number, right? So we saw a lot of the Daivi Sampat there. We're going to see more of Daivi Sampat in 16th chapter. Here we saw values, and Lord Krishna is going to give a huge list there, right? Positive virtues which are to be nourished, and Asuri Sampat being the demonic qualities that we should gradually fade out, right? Here a small list is given. So Nirmana Moha, right? Manam means pride, vanity or arrogance, thinking that I am very great and I don't require Gita, I don't require a guru, I can study on my own, or I don't even need the teachings, etc. God is meant only for the weak-minded people. I'm strong, so I don't require anything, right? Arrogance in general and intellectual arrogance in particular is a very, very big obstacle, because as long as intellectual arrogance is there, I cannot surrender to a guru. During doing namaskara itself becomes difficult. That's why in the 13th chapter, the first value is amanitvam, being humble. Therefore, nirmanam, right, is basically referring to amanitvam, right? So the best method, as Swamiji says, is you move with people who are superior to you, right? So if you have a silver medal, move with someone who has a gold medal. Then your ego will be constantly under check. Therefore, nirmanam means becoming humble, right? One of the primary qualities of a bhakta is humility. Then the second one is mohaha. There is all the asuri sampat, right? So manam is asuri sampat, nirmanam, which is dropping, is daivi sampat, right? So similarly here the next one is mohaha, right? Delusion, dropping the delusion. What is the definition of delusion? Depending on the undependable world here, right? So therefore don't emotionally lean on this world for stability. We saw that, right? So our primary relationship should be with God. All other secondary relationships are temporary, right? So worldly relationships are incidental. So relationship with God is primary. That's why in our culture we start the early morning with invoking Ishvara's grace in the form of Pratasmarami Parameshwara Vaktrapadmam or Pratasmarami Lalita Vadanaravindam. Of course, the Vedantic students will move to Pratasmarami Hridi Samsurad Atma Tattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam, which is invoking one's own higher nature, right? As a senior student, you start invoking your higher nature. But all of them are the Pratasmarana mantra, and first it is God and then it is replaced by Atma Tattvam, right? But the invocation is common, right? So you can choose whichever devata you want. There is a Pratasmarana mantram for that devata, and remembering that Ishvara is my support, right? With the support of Ishvara, I am ready to confront the day, right? So I have the backup called Ishvara right through the day. I remember that, right? Then Jita Sangha Dosha, right? Weakening of the Sangha or the attachment gradually, right? Which has been already talked about as the first discipline. Sangha Dosha means emotional attachment. Jita means gradually overcoming that. Then the next one is Adhyatma Nitya, This is also something we have talked about in the previous shloka as the second discipline, which is jnana yoga, that is reinforced here as adhyatma nityaha, right? So it is not enough to say, enough to attend class, say 1 hour a week or something, but to remember every day some part of the teaching and to bring it to your mind and dwell on it for some time. So minimum that you can do, right? So adhyatma means jnana yoga, nityaha means regularly and committedly. Then vinivritta kamaha. So may you start refining your desires. May you start refining your desires in such a way that your desires are conducive for spiritual growth, right? And not, it doesn't add more and more materialistic goals, right? So now, many people imagine that one day they will have an ideal setup for attending Gita classes, right? So apparently they often tell Swamiji, oh, you know, my child is getting married, so definitely I will be regular after that. So then Swamiji says earlier this person was attending 1 or 2 classes, right? In say 2-3 months, right? So the way he says, he thinks, okay, now that his duties are all over, he is going to attend every week. Now what happens? The setup has only got more and more complicated, and this person is not to be seen for 6 months because he's gone for babysitting one of the grandchildren, right? So the point that Swamiji is trying to say is there's never a good time, right, to start. Always as a grihastha, you will have conflicting priorities. We need to make sure that we give sufficient time, whatever it is per week or per day, but consistently be at it so that we are able to retain the teaching and also imbibe much better, right, and implement. So never have the expectation that someday all your problems will get sorted out and you can spend time on spirituality. It will never ever work. It's exactly like saying, oh, I will go and have a bath in the ocean once the waves subside, right? It's exactly like that, right? So now it becomes, as long as you are in your work life, it will be difficult, right? But we must remember that working, earning money and spending on Panchamahayajna is also a form of spiritual discipline. But the teaching has to be there somewhere behind in the mind, right? So Dhanam also we have to do a lot. And he always says a spiritually minded person, right? If he is continuing to work after he feels that he doesn't need the money, right? He will always use that extra money for charity in, say, the upkeep of Sanskritam or Vedanta or any of the Pancha Mahayajnas for that matter, right? So a contented non-earning person obviously cannot give dhanam, right? A contented yet yearning person only will be able to give dhanam or contribute, right? So the kama for money is good. The desire for money is good if it is meant for dhanam. So what we are trying to say here is the spiritually conducive desires may you nourish. So desire for Gita class, desire for Pancha Mahayajna, desire for earning money for Pancha Mahayajna. All of this is fine. They are all healthy desires. But we must make sure that we slowly also give up some of the materialistic pursuits, right? So therefore vinivritta kamaha means non-conducive desires may you turn away from, and then dvandvai vimuktaha sukha dukkha sanyaihi, right? Learning to balance the mind in opposite experience. Dvandva means opposite experience, giving sukham and dukkham. These two are bound to happen in life because of our prarabdha karma. Therefore, may you learn to go through that, right? Life is consistently confronting favorable and unfavorable situations, right? So the prarabdha karma will continuously bring them, right? Only good thing is in Manushya Janma, our percentage of Papa Punya has been somewhere close to say 50, maybe 40, 60 or 45, 55 or 48, 52, the Papa Punya proportion, right? Because of this mixture, right? Every day, some good news may also come, some bad news may also come, right? From the world, from our own body, anything. One day our body can feel good, the other day it may have some problem, right? Because the papa and punya are a mixture, right? So that is dvandva. And it is also said here that dvandva also means unknown and unpredictable, right? Both can happen. And I don't know what is in store for me tomorrow. And both extremes, the pairs of opposites, I have to face. And since I cannot change that externally, the only way out is for me to prepare myself internally. Exactly like carrying an umbrella or a raincoat, right, during the rainy season, so that when it rains, you are unaffected, right? So seek the support of God as a shock absorber, right? So in Mukunda Mala, you see there is a very beautiful verse. I think I've told this before also. Nastha dharmena vasunichaye naiva kamopavoge yadyad bhavyam bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanu rupam etad prartyam mama bahumatam janma janmantarepi tvat padam boruha yuga gata nishala bhaktirastu. O Lord, whatever has to happen according to law of karma, let it happen. Let me not worry about what will happen, which I don't know, but let me do whatever I have to do all the time. Having done that, what is my desire? Etat prartyam mama bahumatam janma janmantarepi. Let me do my duty and relax my mind and enjoy your darshanam, or in the form of Vishwarupa darshanam, in the form of the world. Bhakti means faith in God, which gives me confidence, and therefore I am able to say I am ready to confront whatever is going to happen, right? And I will not talk about tomorrow, right? So every day I am ready. And because I have the backup of Ishvara, right, I develop what is called titiksha, or raising the endurance power. So Lord Krishna said in the second chapter itself, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nityaha stanstitakshasva bharata. So Arjuna, success will come, failure will come, position will come, position will go, health will come, health will go, diseases will come, right? All these things will come. Learn to endure them. Bhakti develops endurance power. So therefore, dvandvai vimuktaha, that the fourth discipline is free from the impact of these extremes, dvaitam, right? It is not that the dvaitam is not affecting him, but we have built a shock absorber, right? So this is another set of values, sukha dukkha sanyaihi, right? So now the four things that we have seen are what? Detachment, surrender, inquiry, and values, right? And the primary sadhana is what? We have to be very clear. One is mukhyam, right? So others are supporting ones. The supporting ones are called anga, right? And the mukhya sadhana is the main one, right? So we will see that the inquiry, basically the jnana yoga, the inquiry alone is the primary sadhana, because what is our samsara disease? It is born out of ignorance. So that is the primary sadhana, and all the others are what we refer to as the anga sadhanas, or supportive sadhanas. So in the 5th chapter, Lord Krishna had said, Agnene navritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Krishna clearly said that ignorance is our primary problem, and therefore jnanam is the primary medicine, and knowledge comes only through inquiry. And whenever we say inquiry, it is nothing but systematic study of the scriptures, consistent and systematic study of the scripture under a live and competent guru for a long time. Therefore, study of Gita is a primary sadhana. Detachment, support, like śaranagati supports, values support, but inquiry is the medicine, and all these things are pathyam that we see in the Ayurvedic treatment. So, amudaha bhavanti. Here, amudaha means free from ignorance, right? So, the word amudaha has got a special meaning, free from mohaha, right? Mohaha means ignorance, ajnanam. Therefore, amudaha means jnaninaha bhavanti. They will become wise and which alone Lord Krishna starts in the beginning of the Gita. Shri Bhagavan Vacha in 2:11, Ashoshyanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadansha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasuncha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Right? So, our mission in life is what? Becoming jnani. As a result of that, they reach where? Tat avyayam padam gachanti. They will attain or reach the imperishable goal, the stable root of the samsara tree. Padam meaning goal, avyayam meaning the imperishable or stable. Right? We have seen that the root of the prapancha vriksha is Bhagavan. Right? They will attain Brahman. Right? Now, the question is, what is that root or Brahman? Right? We are just saying root, right? So the root is Brahman, the truth or the root of this creation. So Lord Krishna describes this in the next shloka, extremely important shloka, definition of Brahman, and which is borrowed from the Upanishad. Very, very important verses in the Upanishad, very famous mantras which occur both in Kathopanishad and Mundaka Upanishad, right? So Lord Krishna is borrowing from there, and this is enough evidence that Bhagavad-gita is not an independent work of Krishna, but Krishna has taken the extract from the Upanishad. Sarva Upanishadaha Gava, right? Gavaha. So if the Upanishads are compared to cows, then Gita is the extract, right? So the famous mantra is Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto vanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Every time they show Aarti in the temple, they chant this mantra, and that mantra is actually going to be paraphrased in verse 6, right? So I have given this quotation here. It is available in both Mundaka Upanishad as well as Kathopanishad, and extremely long and elaborated bhashyam sections by Shankaracharya on both these verses, because the context in which they appear in Mundaka Upanishad and Kathopanishad are totally different, although the verse is the same, right? So the contextual meaning, Shankaracharya goes to such a great extent to elaborate based on the previous verses found in Mundaka Upanishad and Kathopanishad. Okay, so in the Mundaka Upanishad, the reference is more to Jyotisham Jyotihi, which means light of lights. Whereas in the case of Kathopanishad, the previous verse talks about Sukham, right? So Atma being Sukha Swarupam is the context there, right? I just wanted to give you this so that you relate that this particular verse is extremely important. If I had to choose one from all the Upanishads that, you know, at least I have studied with my guru over so many years, it would be this one single verse, which I think I've mentioned even earlier. And it is always worthwhile getting by heart this verse and chanting when you are doing the Neerajanam in front of the God. So the sun does not illumine that Atma, the moon and the stars do not illumine, these flashes of lightning do not illumine. How can this fire illumine? The Neerajanam that I am showing, everything shines after that Atma alone, which is self-effulgent, and by its light all this shines. And sincerely at the end of the Neerajanam, we also add in our mind that such an Atma I am the Sakshi Atma who is a witness of this body, mind, as well as the other anatmas, right? So this is that important verse. Now let's move to the actual verse in the Gita. न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशाङ्को न पावकः न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम Taddama paramam mama. So look at the similarity in the meaning here. So that Brahman, which is all pervading, which is invisible or formless, and which is the adhishtanam of the entire universe, is never an object of any instrument of knowledge. You can never use any instrument of knowledge and know that Brahman as an object of knowledge, right? So hence Vedanta, right, says an object of knowledge, an object of instrument. In Vedanta we see is called prameyam, and any instrument of knowledge is called pramanam, and that which is revealed through an instrument pramanam is called prameyam, and Brahman is never a prameyam. And why? In Vishnu Sahasranamam, one of the names of the God is Aprameyo Rishikesho Padmanabho Maraprabhu Aprameyaha. Right? No instrument can reveal Brahman. And the same word is used in Lalita Sahasranama with a feminine gender. Aprameya Swaprakasha Manovachama Gochara. Again Aprameya, which is cannot be discerned by the primary instruments of knowledge. Right? Now, Brahman has been defined, right, in several Upanishads, right? Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Arasam, Agandam, etc. Now, if it is none of these, then obviously the corresponding sense organs like eyes cannot see Brahman, ears cannot hear Brahman, nose cannot smell, tongue cannot taste, skin cannot touch, because Brahman does not have any of these attributes. It is attributeless. So whenever you hear of the Bhakta having got a darshanam of the God, we have to understand that it is only a provisional God, right? They had basically, they would have had goosebumps, they would have seen God, etc. Now, if you even read Om Swami's book on, very nicely written book, you will see that he has actually seen God and he has experienced God, etc. Right? So God appears in front of Bhakta, but we must remember that it is the provisional God and not the real God. We cannot see the real God, which is Brahman, which is Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Arasam, Agandam, right? So in all the Bhakti Granthas, whatever God is referred to, it is only provisional God. When you go to Upanishads, right? Upanishad says only the provisional God is visible. The real one is Indriya Agocharam, which is beyond the sense organs, right? You cannot use a telescope, microscope, whatever scope to actually see Brahman, right? And Upanishad says even words cannot describe this Brahman, right? Because the worldly object may have one attribute or the other, but here it is Sarva Pramana Agocharam, and therefore sun also cannot illumine, moon also cannot illumine, stars cannot illumine. There is a question of our local light or Nirajanam, any of them, right? So nothing can illumine this Brahman, right? So na shashankaha, not the moon, na pavakaha, not the Agni, right? The Upanishads use two more illuminators, right? Sun, moon is used, Agni is used, then na chandra tarakam, moon, stars, right? Vidyutaha adds one more, which is electricity, lightning, right? This is added by the Upanishad. So none of them can reveal this Brahman. So now, what is the conclusion one can jump into immediately? Oh, Brahman does not exist. Easy way of explaining that, right? That is why Swamiji gives this example. What is philosophy means? A blind man looking for a blind cat in a dark room where the cat is not there. A blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat which is not even there, right? But Upanishad says very clearly that Brahman does exist. The Upanishad says it exists in the form of consciousness principle, Chaitanya Tattvam. All our instruments can objectify only matter. Brahman happens to be a non-material principle. All the instruments can study only material objects, whereas Brahman is neither matter nor material. Non-material consciousness is Chaitanya Tattvam. And that is why for modern science, even now, consciousness is a mystery, right? First problem is what science doesn't even know that there should be a branch to study this, right? So every scientist says that it's not my branch, right? If you see consciousness. So if consciousness itself is assume that there is nothing called, there's no science for consciousness, there's no branch of study for consciousness, but nobody can say there is no consciousness. Why? Because if you say that there is no consciousness, then you yourself become non-existent, and you will not be able to experience the world also. Without consciousness, nothing can be revealed. Therefore, the answer is Brahman is the revealer of everything, but is never revealed by everything. Therefore, unrevealable revealer of everything, that is Brahman, right? So then you start wondering, non-revealable, revealable, revealer, unobjectifiable, objectifier of everything, and that consciousness principle. Then you remember the 5 features. Consciousness is not a part, product, or property of the body-mind science complex. Consciousness is an independent principle which pervades and enlivens all of them, all of the body-mind complexes. Consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Consciousness continues to survive, right? Even after the disintegration of the body, right? Only thing is, it is not able to transact because the medium of transaction is not available anymore. Therefore, Krishna says that Dhamma, right? The word Dhamma, Shankaracharya translates it as Chaitanya Tattvam, light of consciousness, right? And Bhagavan, right, is basically the Adhishtanam, right? Is the abode of, or we call it Vishwadharam in Vishnu Sahasranamam, right? So Dhamma means Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, Mama, Paramam, Dhamam, right? It is my own higher nature, right? The Krishna Shariram comes under Apara Prakriti, lower nature. Bhagavan is, the lower nature is visible, right? In the higher nature, he is Chaitanya Swarupam, right? So that is why the word Paramam is used to indicate the higher nature. This Jnani Bhakta, who has gone through all the 4 disciplines, right? Basically, he was Artha Bhakti, Artharthi Bhakti, Jignasu Bhakti, and then he has come to Jnani Bhakti. Okay? So, he will merge into me, that is Brahman. Therefore, he says, Gatva means merge into this Brahman, which is my higher nature, right? Such a Jnani Bhakta, by following the 4 disciplines of detachment, inquiry, right, and values and surrendering, śaranagati, he becomes a Jnani and merges into me. That is called Gadva here, right? Seemingly merges, right? And the individual Jiva, and he continues as Ishvara himself without being born again. Therefore, na nivartante, he does not return. There is no more punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle. We'll continue in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I have an important announcement. On 25th of December, on the auspicious occasion of Gita Jayanti, Vyoma Labs and Practical Vedanta at IIMB, they invite you to a Gita Parayana, okay, of all the 700 shlokas. Since we are already in the 15th chapter, I'm sure most of you know up to this chapter, at least can join and recite. So if possible and the time suits you, please join. It is 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. IST, right? And the Zoom link and the meeting ID is given here. Okay, so please do join in if you can for the Gita Parayana. Let me now see if there are any questions. In clause, oh, what is the 4th discipline? I think I covered this. One second. So we saw the first one was vairagyam, the second one was jnana yoga, third one was śaranagati, and the fourth one was values. The fourth one was values. We saw the values, which I referred to also the 13 chapter set of values, etc. Okay, so that was the fourth discipline. So I hope I answered that. Verse 5. Okay, so you want to know who is the wise person referred to in verse 5. The wise person is a jnani bhakta here, basically. So that is the person who is referred to in verse 5. Yes. The wise attains that imperishable goal. The wise person who is a jnani bhakta is referred to here. Please try to upload the video of Gita Parayanam same day. I will request the team. Oh, okay, wonderful. I think it is going to be a live link. Let me just check and come back to you definitely. And you will also be sent, I think, a mail. A mailer is coming to all of you. I just offered to announce here so that we don't miss it. So I will definitely pass on the information, and I'll also tell them that if they can, there is going to be a live YouTube live. So maybe you can go back and see from the beginning. That won't be a problem. Yeah, I understand it's very early for the West Coast in California. Yes. Any other questions? Anybody else? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, if there are no more questions, then we will meet next week. Dhanyavada.